Well, hello there, and welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do some more Christmas cards for you, so I've got a little one here. It's 5 inches by 6.5 inches, which is the size envelopes that I have. I bought some blank cards at, actually I think I got them on Amazon, but they have them anywhere. Hobby Lobby and Office Depot and online, and I think even Walmart has blank cards that you can do art on or whatever. So what I usually do is I will go ahead and paint one on watercolor paper cut to the right size, and then I attach it to the card so that if they want to throw away the card and keep the picture and put it in a little frame, they can do that, because I like to send originals to my friends and family for Christmas. So what we're using today is several little colors. I've got indigo, Payne's gray, Perylene green, lemon yellow, burnt sienna, and a little, I don't know if we'll use that, but it's sepia. I just thought it might be easier to do, create some of the background shadows with that. So I've got a number 8 round, a number 4 round, a little tiny round. It's a 5 0, so 5 zeros is very tiny, obviously, as you can see. It's quite a little tiny thing. And then I've got a little rigger, and it's a it says 10/0, but a rigger is great for doing little tree limbs. And then our bleed proof white, which is going to give us our snow so that we don't have to worry about preserving the whites. I want to do a lit Christmas tree in this yard. It's sort of a dusk picture, but I want to show that they have a Christmas tree lights on. So the first thing I want to do is to paint the yellow lights in the Christmas tree, and then they will stand out whenever I go to paint around it. It will look like it's lit. And I painted the shape of a tree, but I'm coming around it and adding water to let it sort of bleed out as if it was a little bit of light coming away from that. Clean up that little extra at the top so it doesn't get into my sky and wind up with a green sky. That would not be good. Oh dear, I got too much of my brush. How about we just wipe that up and then just bring in our water around the edges here. Soften those edges there. That lemon yellow is a nice little color. And you can actually put it on top of other colors and it bleeds out and takes over, sort of bleeds into whatever it is that you were doing. So it's kind of a neat thing about lemon yellow. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go into, this is the indigo, which is a wonderful color. I absolutely love indigo. I'm going to mix a little bit up, because if I don't pre-mix it, then I may wind up with lines in my sky. And I do have a little mop brush here. I wasn't originally going to use, but I decided if I don't want lines in my sky, I probably should pre-wet it. And I'm coming down into the hills a little bit, because if my sky flows down into my hills, that's kind of a good thing, actually. Okay, I've got my pre-mix here. And remember, it's dusk, so I am putting quite a bit of color here because it's going to dry lighter. Remember, it always dries lighter. About 30% lighter as a general rule. This is my Payne's gray. And I'm going to add some Payne's to just make this look even a little bit darker. More dusky. And then we can bring our Payne's gray down around our little cabin here because this is going to be some trees, woods in the background. See how that climbed up in there? That's good. That's what I wanted it to do because it looks like treetops in the distance, right? My paint is fairly pure right here, not very watered down. If it's too watered down, it creeps up too much. But if it's just a little bit watered down, it won't creep up on your sky as much. So the purer the color, the less it creeps. So we'll change the shapes just a little bit so it looks more hilly. How about that? I like that. That works. We're going to bring it on down over here next to our cabin. Okay, our yellow is pretty much mostly dry, so I'm not worried about it creeping in too much. Just a little bit is fine because we're leaving that sort of a glow effect, which is what I wanted anyway. The bottom is sort of snowy, so I don't want it to be too dark. I'm adding a little water here and sort of lifting a little bit of that out. A little shadow is fine, but we don't want it too dark. I dipped into my blue and my Payne's Gray together for the shadowy snow back here. A little lighter, I think. Adding a little more water to make the hair lighter. I lay my brush on its side like this because it leaves white spots, which looks highlights, so I kind of like that look. I'm darkening that a bit because I noticed it was creating a strange shape for some reason. Okay, that does look dusky, doesn't it? And you can come in here with the end of your brush and put little occasional lines in your woods too. The water runs into it. If it's still a little bit damp, the water runs into it and creates tree-like shapes in your distance. This side's a little too dry. Still working a little bit though. Let's see here. Okay, we got a little tree here that I kind of covered up with my dark background. We're going to have to try to reintroduce that guy. I'm getting my smaller brush, my number 4, and just I'm going to try to perfect the outline on my barn here because it got a little too loose. There we go. If you do that before it's completely dry, then it blends in and you won't have a line or anything. Okay, While I've got this still a little bit damp here, not too damp, but a little bit, I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna, just some bushes back here, maybe with a little fall color left on them. Just put a little water on my brush and watering it down here. And I am going to try to clean up where it crept into my snow. Sometimes the best way to do that is to dry it so that it can't go anywhere anymore. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll come back with some water and clean it up, and it will clean right up. I'm just softening some of these edges because it was a little too dry. We'll put a little bit of that color over here, just to give a little variety. Like there's an occasional bush. And we can add some Perylene green in there as well. I love Perylene green. It's one of my favorite colors as far as greens go. Okay. I'm just still working with Perylene green here. Trying to add a little extra color into our tree area. Water to let it sort of flow down because it's sort of dark and misty and moody back there. Well, that really crept down, kept creeping down here, didn't it? Okay. Now I'm going to grab my liner. And how about a little bit of Payne's Gray mixed in with some burnt sienna will make very nice tree trunks. So you can add in a few extra tree trunks. These are darker because they're further forward than the ones we scratched in. And this little liner brush just makes them a little more relaxed and realistic. Bring this one down just a little bit here. And I think I have the one little tree that I made that I completely covered up. It's going to have some snow on him and everything. He was right here. Still barely damp, and that's okay. If you want to wait until it completely dries, you can do that. It's such a slight dampness that I think it's not bleeding too much. And then over here, it's going to add just a little bit of trunk here too. And you don't have to do all this. You could just leave it plain. You don't have to add more trunks or anything, but I like the shadowy woods in the background, so this is what I like to do. Okay, now let's move on to our house. You know what I forgot is the red. We gotta have red for the little Christmas house. Quin red. Oh, that should be nice. How about some Quin red? That's a nice red. And it should neutralize a little better with my paints as well. Oh yeah, that's pretty right there. Okay. Let's go into our barn. It's got snow on them, so you don't want to go into this roof. And of course there's snow up here too, so you want to leave a little white line up there. If you mess up on it, that's why we're using the bleed proof white. But I'm just showing you the both ways of doing it. You can leave your whites or you can come back and use bleed proof. I'm going to paint over this little thing because it's going to be black anyway. Now I need a little shadow in that. So we're just going to paint in some shadows. It sort of gives it a misty nighttime look with my Payne's gray. And every now and then I'm just putting some hints that, you know, the way the wood moves up and down the slats. Maybe a little darker towards the top here. We'll add the little window later because we need it to stay crisp, and we can't do that if it's damp. So I'm cleaning the paints off my brush and coming back into my red again, which does have a little paints added to it to tone it down. I am leaving my windows on this one because they are lit. So we don't want to cover our lit windows, or window. I'm still using my number 4 brush. Okay. It's on a hill a little bit, so I know it goes up, but that's because of the hill. While it's still wet, rather than moving on to the rest of the building, I've got to put in my paints while this is wet, otherwise you won't get that nice runny effect. And that's what we need. We want it to blend smoothly. Just sort of hint at these lines because it's in the distance and it's in the evening. Okay, I'm cleaning the paints off. Going back into that red again with a little bit of paints on my brush. Okay, I forgot to leave a window on that one, and there was supposed to be a window. So I guess I'm going to have to add that back in with the bleed proof white because I totally forgot about it. I'm darkening this side a little more because it's more in the shadow than the rest of it. This is probably our brightest side right here. forgot this part right here. And there is a window there also, which we will leave open. Oops, that was a little too pure pigment. Okay, moving along. Let's see, let's make, this door's going to be white. We're going to take this little tiny brush, my 5 zeros, into my Payne's Gray. And what I'm doing is just creating those white crisscross patterns that they have on these old doors. So I guess it's supposed to be the shadows or something. I just want to hint that there's a bit of a crisscross shape on there. And then a nice crisp line down the middle where it opens. There we go. Just putting some edge around these windowsills. And I guess we'll leave the door white also, so we just need to give it a little bit of shadow. It's too dark. Just wet your brush and it thins it out. This little tiny brush doesn't hold a lot of water, that's why it's not doing much. Let's come back with this guy. There we go. Okay. On the roof, I'm going to go back into that tree color that I used where I mixed a little Payne's Gray with a little bit of burnt sienna. And I'm going to lay my brush on its side. I'm going to try it on this right here. That's what I want it to look like. Like maybe the snow didn't completely cover the roof. Maybe a tiny bit of the roof is showing through. And then with the panes, you can create shadows in the snow. I just bumped that red and evidently it was still wet. Now I've got to dry that little spot. There we go. This is all kind of in the dusk also, so I'm just going to darken all of it a little bit, except the very, very tip top. Okay. Now where's that tiny one? There's the little brush. Payne's Gray around my door. Well, that's still too wet, so I can't go around the door. But I can create my shadow under here. That side was wet, so we're going to wait on that. And we can put a little pile of wood over here too. This is the wood that he cooks with. I'll just put that right there. A little dark at the bottom. We're going to wait for this to finish drying before we go over and add a little more shadow to the snow there. It does need a few little bushes up front, doesn't it? Okay, let's grab our Perylene Green and just maybe add some little bushes here in front of the house or in front of the barn. Maybe that one's a little tree. We'll add a little snow on top of those too, which will make them look nice. Okay, back into our neutral tint, I think is going to work out for our posts. Just putting in some posts. They're bigger when they're closer. They don't have to be perfectly straight. They just need to get smaller as you get further away. And then put your lines. Fatter as they're closer, narrower as they get further away. One of these closer ones fat enough that I can put some snow on top, so they do have to be just a little bit fatter, or I won't be able to get snow on them. Okay. And I put a little path where maybe the car or the tractor was driving in. And it gets lighter and narrower as it gets closer to those doors. If you wet your brush just a little bit, you can come in and smooth that out so that it looks more like a shadow. Okay, the tree. The tree, because it's lit, is actually going to be kind of unique because it is lit up, so you can't have too much darkness in it. So we're just going to zigzag back and forth a little bit with our Perylene Green. Just every now and then sort of giving the inkling that there's tree limbs in there under all these lights. They've got it well lit. I'm adding a little panes to my Perylene to make it a little darker in the dark spots. And then I'm going to add some red because the lights are creating reflections. there's a lot of red decorations on it or something. We'll add a little shadow underneath with some panes. There's already a little reflected light from the yellow, which is what we need to. You see the reflected light down in the shadow? And now we can go over here and sort of tone down those darker, further back snow areas. That's a well-lit little tree, isn't it? Take the branches off the sides just a little bit more right here every now and then. That's our little star at the top. So make sure that that's bright. Okay, I think a little shadow on the bottom parts of our barn. A little more shadow on the back. I'm using panes. I'm dipping into this brown that we made for those original trees too, with panes and burnt sienna too, because it makes it almost black color. Just give us some hints of wood. Okay guys, I think we're about done. I'm going to add snow. Maybe a little yellow light in the window. How about that? Paint the inside of the window yellow because they got light on in there. That looks nice. And if you wanted to make the light shine around the window, you can just sort of wet the area around the window in a little bit of a circle. Tap it. Tap it, and then add your yellow. And it will bleed out into that area that you just dampened. See the little reflections now? Okay. Go into our white. I usually will take a palette knife and pull a little bit out and just put it on my little plastic liner here, because that way this doesn't dry out on me. It sort of gets flaky if it starts to dry out. Make sure my brush is nice and clean. And we're going to add some snow. I think I grayed that up a little too much up here. So we're going to whiten it up a bit. There we go. Okay, we wanted our door to stand out a little more. Ooh, on top of that. Let's put some on top of these trees. I need to gray that down a bit. That's too white. Because it's in the dark, remember? It's starting to pile up a little bit on these branches because we're about to add some snow sprinkles. So I wanted to show it piling up on the branches here. This is almost a dry brush technique because I hardly have any on my paintbrush. I'm just trying to hint at this snow. It's just barely starting to attach. And we do have some falling, catching on our tree as well. I need to clean that to be white though, because it has lights on it. So it's going to be a brighter color. It's just a hint that it's starting to sort of sit on the tree limbs. And then some little hints on top of our posts. You won't be able to see it much back here, but I'm just going to hint at it just a little bit. Just to show that there is a little bit of snow catching on those. Right on top of the posts. We didn't shadow the posts at all, so we can do that if you want more details. Going into that dark color that we made our limbs with. And just add a little shadow to our posts with our fine brush. It gives it more of a 3D effect when you've got three tones. So you got a mid-tone, a highlight, and a dark tone. And that does sort of bring things to life. These are further away, so I'm not worried about them being as dark. I'm just hinting at that shadow a little bit. And we need to fix this door because it's got issues. And while I've got this, I'm taking this Payne's Gray and I'm putting in our little what do they call that? It's the little barn window for the hay to come out of. Swing it out the top. There you go. There's probably one in the upper barn too. Okay. Back to my number 4 and my white. Oops, just laid that in there. Just brightening up these whites just a little bit more because they sort of soaked in. And this door where it got the red bled into it, I want to whiten that just a little bit. There we go, that looks better. And we were going to put a little snow on these little bushes too. think the bushes are a little light. We probably need to darken them here. I think we're pretty well done, guys. I'm going to darken the bushes underneath here. Pearline and Pains. And under our wood pile, a little darker. Maybe right at the edge here. Maybe the snow is a little bit brighter where it lands on the edge. Okay, now it's time for some splattering. I love doing that. I'm wetting my brush just a little bit so that this is somewhat moist. I'm going to test it right there. That's a pretty nice splatter. I think she's just about done, guys. We'll splatter some darker gray ones right there in the distance. Now this is going to be all over my table. There you go, all done. Paint that up for a family member or a friend, and they are going to love it. For sure. And if you really like it, you've still got time to go on to like Vistaprint or one of those places and have them print out your Christmas cards for your family out of your own piece of art. Isn't that fun? This is just washi tape, by the way. I got it at Hobby Lobby. It was a holiday package, so it has like every holiday in it. But it's called washi, W-A-S-H-I, washi tape. It's nice to have a nice clean edge on my Christmas cards. And if you want to, you can take a like a gold pin. Like I've got a gold pin right here. After it dries, I can take a ruler and put a little gold line right around the edges. And that always looks kind of cool. And there you go. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That was fun to paint. Join me next week. I'll be doing another one. And pull out your paints and do this for your family. They will love it. I guarantee it. They'll just absolutely love these personal cards. And don't forget, you can also print it out. Please like and subscribe and share this with your friends. It really helps with my channel to get more followers. And I appreciate that very much. I hope you enjoy painting this. Merry Christmas. We'll see you next week.